So the next chapter is presbyopia. Presbyopia, as you know, that amplitude of accommodation declines steadily with age. Why? Because mainly due to sclerosis of the fibers of the crystalline lens, and also changes in the capsule of the lens. Sclerosis of the fibers of the crystalline lens and changes in the capsule of the lens. So both these reduces the spontaneous steepening of its surface. So reduce the steepening of the surface when the ciliary muscle contracts. So during accommodation the ciliary muscle contracts and there is steepening, but due to age this spontaneous steepening is reduced. Also it may be that the ciliary muscle itself become less efficient with advancing age after 40 years. So what is the accommodation at different types of ages? In infancy the eye is capable of 14 diopter of accommodation, 14 diopter. But by the age of 45 years this has fallen to about 4 diopter, about at the age of 45, and after the age of 60 years only 1 diopter or less remains, maybe enhanced. 1 diopter or less remains. It may be enhanced by senile meiosis due to change in the lens. Now, in order to focus on an object at a reading distance of 25 centimeter, the emmetropic eye must accommodate by 4 diopter. So we need 4 diopter accommodation for 25 centimeter reading distance. However, for comfortable near vision, 1/3 of the available accommodation must be kept in reserve. 1/3 must be kept in reserve. Therefore, the patient begin to experience difficulty or discomfort for near vision at 25 centimeter when his accommodation has decayed to 6 diopter. So we need 4 diopter, but when accommodation decreased to 6 diopter we start symptoms of presbyopia. This usually occurs between 40 and 45 years of age. A patient with no accommodation will have 0.25 diopter depth of field, which enable him to see clearly from 4 meters to infinity. So when accommodation is decreased to 6 diopter, we start discomfort at near vision, and this difficulty and discomfort for near vision due to reduced amplitude of accommodation is said to be presbyopic. A supplementary convex lens is used to enable the patient to achieve comfortable near vision. The lens is called presbyopic correction, and the age-related inadequacy of accommodation is called presbyopia. Presbyopia cannot be defined in terms of remaining amplitude of accommodation. Why? Because the onset of symptoms varies with the patient preferred working distance, and the second cause is the nature of the close work, and third is the length of the time for which it is done. Now the onset of presbyopia occurs earlier in uncorrected hypermetropia than in emmetropia, and in uncorrected myopia the presbyopia is delayed. Calculation of presbyopic correction. The amount of presbyopic correction which is necessary for a given patient, it can be calculated if the remaining amplitude of accommodation is determined. It is determined from his near point and the desired working distance is specified. For example, in emmetropic patient has remaining amplitude of accommodation of 3 diopter. So its near point is 33 centimeter. Now to achieve comfortable near vision, he must keep 1/3 of this in reserve. So he must use only 2 diopter of this 3 diopter accommodation. Now what if he wishes to see clearly at 25 centimeter? He needs 4 diopter. So he requires a presbyopic correction of 2 diopter because he is only 3 diopter. So he needs further 2 diopter. So 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. So he will use 2 for 25 centimeter. He will use 4 diopter and 1 diopter will be kept in reserve. In practice, the refractionist learns by experience to anticipate the approximate presbyopic correction from the patient age. This is then confirmed by subjective refraction. So, for age 45 to 50 years, normal spectacles correction is plus 1 diopter. Near addition for 50 to 55, so increase it by 0.5. For more 5 years, for every 5 years, increase it by 0.5. So above 60, 2.5. Now in ametropia, like for example in hypermetropia, in myopia, the correction is different. The correction for presbyopia is different. In ametropia, the presbyopic correction is added to the patient distance correction. So first we should know the distance correction. For example, if a patient distance correction is 3 diopter, so he needs 3 diopter to see clearly at infinity. So for near 25 centimeter, he needs 4 diopter. So 3 diopter for infinity and 4 diopter for near. So overall he will need 7 diopter for hypermetropic patient. So now if a patient is myopic, 3 diopter myopic, so he is a far point at 33 centimeter. Now to focus 25 centimeter, he needs only 1 diopter of accommodation. So myopic needs less diopter for near vision, while hypermetropic needs more diopter than the normal emmetrope population. So as we know that for 25 centimeter we need 4 diopter. So if a patient is 4 diopter myopic, so he can read without glasses. Presbyopic correction must be adjusted for different working distances. The presbyopic correction must be adjusted for different working distance. In practice, the refractionist may prescribe too strong a presbyopic correction for a given task because the patient tends to hold the reading test type closer to the eyes than usual. A useful safeguard against overcorrection is to ensure that the patient can read N5 at his or her approximate reading distance, but also an 8 at arm's length with the proposed correction. Bifocal lenses. It is a single pair of spectacles and there are bifocal lenses. It provides a separate for distance and near prescriptions. The distance portion is the larger and the near portion is the smaller portion. It has different types. The first type is split or Franklin bifocals. It is the earliest design. These are distance lens and it says flat bottom, and there is a near lens, it has a flat top. Both are together. Another type is cemented wafer bifocals. They have near portion. This is near portion. This is constructed by attaching a supplementary lens to the surface of a distance lens of the same refractive index. So a cemented wafer bifocal, a thin wafer of glass. This is a thin wafer of glass with the same refractive index as this major lens. It was cemented to the back surface of the major lens. Third type is fused bifocal. The near portion is made by heat fusing a button of flint glass with a refractive index of 1.6. This is a button of flint glass to a corresponding depression in a crown glass. It is a refractive index of 1.52. So this is a main lens. The near addition depends on the refractive index of each glass type and the surface curvature of the depression, and also depend on the distance portion. Cemented and fused segments can be made in different shapes to suit occupational requirements. So these are different shapes. So the glass button has a higher refractive index than the crown glass than the main lens. Fourth type is solid bifocal, single piece construction. Near addition is produced by different curvature of either the front or back surface of this portion. The executive style solid bifocal has a full width horizontal junction between the near and distance portion. Plastic bifocals are always of the solid type. The distance DVP and near NVP visual points. So in bifocal eyeglasses, the distance visual point and the near visual point, they are the points on the lens used for distance and near vision respectively. So through which it is assumed the visual axis is directed while the spectacles are in use. This NVP is 2 mm nasal and 8 mm below the DVP, and but these values can vary. The top of the near portion should be tangential with the inferior limbus of the cornea for most purposes. When prescribing bifocals for children, for whom executive bifocal may be prescribed to overcome convergence axis esotropia, the segment edge should be at the lower margin of the pupil to ensure that the near portion is used for all near tasks. So the top edge of the bifocal segment must bisect the pupil or set 1 to 2 mm below it when the child is looking straight ahead. So bifocals for children are often set higher than normal, in line with or slightly below the pupil center to encourage use. Intolerance of bifocals is commonly caused by a poorly fitting frame, which allows the near portion to slip too low for comfortable use. Now, if the optical center of each portion of the lens coincide with the NVP or DVP, it follows that an increasing prismatic effect occurs towards the junction of the distance and near portion. Prismatic effect towards the junction of the distance and near portion. The prism power at the junction will suddenly change when the patient looks from one portion to the other, and the image will suddenly change position. This is known as prismatic jump. Prismatic jump when patient looks from one portion to the other, so the image will suddenly change position. So the prism power at the junction suddenly change. That's why prismatic jump occur. Prismatic jump can be reduced if the optical centers of the lens lie at or near the junction of the two portions. Optical center lie at the junction of two portions or near the junction of two portions. In a monocentric executive bifocal, they coincide at the junction of the distant and near portion, so no prismatic jump occurs. Shaped segments reduced prismatic jump because the segment top is only a short distance from its optical center. The prismatic effect at the NVP. This is the sum of the prismatic effect due to the main lens and that due to the segment at this point. Bifocals may not be tolerated by patients with anisometropia. Why? Because the prismatic effect on each eye will be different. Great care must also be exercised when prescribing for patients with vertical extraocular imbalance. A down curved circular segment has a base down prismatic effect at the NVP because its optical center is always below it. This counters the base up effect of a hypermetropic distance correction, but adds to the base down effect of a myopic distance correction, which may make it intolerable. So myopic distance correction may make it intolerable. So for hypermetropia this is no problem, but for myopic distance correction it may become a problem. Image jump and prismatic effect are reduced by incorporating a base up prism in the near segment. The biprism slab of process. Base up prism is incorporated with the prescription to the near and distance portions together. Then it is removed from the distance portion only, so the original prismatic modification affect only the near portion. Another optical problem with bifocal lenses is that the near visual axis does not correspond with the optical axis of the near portion of the lens. So the next problem is the near visual axis does not correspond with the optical axis of the near portion of the lens. So light passes obliquely through near portion, which cause oblique astigmatism. To reduce this astigmatism, bifocal spectacles should be made so that the top of each lens is tilted forward 10 to 20 degrees. This is known as pentoscopic tilt, making the visual axis more perpendicular to the near portion of the lens when reading. Contraindication for bifocal. Occupation involving work at a height, for example on a scaffolding. Elderly people unsteady on their feet are suffering from vertigo. Trifocal lenses, these comprise a distance portion, a near segment separated by intermediate segment of lesser, usually half power, to allow clear middle distance vision. Progressive addition lenses. The lens powers of progressive addition lenses change gradually between the distance and near points so that a single pair of spectacles suffice for all distances. Between the DVP and NVP is the power progression corridor, where the lens is optically true and focuses for intermediate distance. Progressive addition lenses vary between hard and lever, soft and ultra soft design. Hard designs have relatively wide distance and near portion, but the progression corridor is narrow and aberration occur close to it. Newer soft designs have smaller distance and near portion, allowing a wider progression corridor with less pronounced aberration to each side. They are therefore better tolerated than newer soft designs. Patients requiring a wide near portion are unlikely to succeed with progressive additional lenses.